Alright, here's an interesting one. This side landing gear fell out on the driver yesterday. The bottom part of it. The bottom, whatever, I don't even know what to call it. Doesn't matter. Fell out, spring broke. These things are getting very rusty and hard to use for a while, so that was kind of bound to happen. So I've taken the whole assembly apart on both sides. There's the gears. The shaft is still in that one. I am kind of disappointed in the manufacturer for only adding 2 points of lubrication on it. So I've taken the liberty of adding a lot more. I'll show you that in a bit. One I can show you right now. Added a grease zerk there. And same thing on that one there. Because on these moving portions, these sides seem to be getting greased just fine, but this back is not getting really any grease at all. It's hard to tell because the camera lens are dirty. Yeah, that's better. So, not really getting any grease. That was my bad. Just need to put a little weld there and then grind it flat. But anyways, grease zerks there, so those will get grease. These I had to use my angle grinder, cut slots 180 degrees apart. This one I was trying to use my air hammer and stuff and gave up on that, and that's how I realized I'd have to do this. So I'm gonna have to cut these flared ends off. It's fine, because the main thing that does the job here is the bolt that crosses through. So I'm just gonna weld these cracks up, and then just on this one I have to cut that. I learned my lesson with that, and on that shaft I just skipped the air hammer and just went straight to cutting 180-degree cuts on the ends, and then using my punches to spread them out so that they came off these shafts. By the way, this trailer is only let me think, 4 years old, so just crazy what the rust belt does to things. I'm not gonna address this today, but obviously this is kind of fucked. Oh well. So coming over here, the main one that I've been working on. I'm using my spray paint because I ran out of black. Haven't gotten any new black stuff yet. Added grease zerks here and here. A little bit unorthodox, but gotta do what you gotta do. I couldn't just put the grease zerks right in there because I'd get in the way of things. So they had to be sitting out farther. So they're technically an NPT thread, so they're really not supposed to work in this, but it's about the same size thread as what these nuts are, and these nuts are extras from old backing plates for the trailers. So they're fine thread, but they're not pipe thread, but for most of the way the grease zerk still thread into them. So I'm actually gonna need this. But anyways, I welded one of those. I drilled a hole and then I welded the nut there, so you can see there's still the locking portion of that nut. And then I did the bottom of the nut up like that because that was cleaner. The threads are cleaner on that end, so it was easier to get the zerks in. Then I put the zerk in, and then obviously that'll pass through to there, and then that will lubricate this so it'll slide back and forth easier. The spring is in there already. This is the end that broke. I already cut the broken part off and just bent a few more coils back to use those coils now. So this spring will work better. The other one's a bit loose. It doesn't really return very fast. This one's a lot more snappy now. So, and then I put the cleaner end. This originally was flipped, so I put this end down at the bottom now, because this is where the other one got all corroded down there, because that's where all is exposed to the elements. So, and then one other thing right here, There was no Zerk there. I think that's a terrible oversight because these things were so seized you could barely get them moved. You had to use a hammer to get them out half the time. And the springs that are supposed to return them back inward to lock it, to help keep it locked into place on those detent holes. The spring was obviously rusted, compressed, so this thing would move freely once you did get it loose. So I freed the spring up, put a Zerk there, so now people can grease it and it'll, you know, it won't get seized anymore. So kind of disappointed that they had not put a Zerk there to begin with. It just, once again, kind of seems like an oversight to me personally. So yeah, here's obviously the threaded portion. Just gonna have to throw some fresh grease on there and stuff and clean up a little bit. Not much to that, that's fine. And then bolt it back onto there, and then this will be good to put back together, and then I can kind of do the same stuff to this one, except I don't have to mess with the spring too much. I will have to take it off still because it'll be easier to work with this pin, because I'm going to have to cut this handle off, pin comes out, take that out, and then free the spring up, and then put it back in, weld the handle back on. And yeah, once the pin's out, I'll also have to do the grease Zerk as well. I don't know, maybe, depending what the spring looks like, maybe I'll cut a few coils off of that too, who knows. But yeah, interesting stuff. I'll maybe add a clip of the finished product once I'm done with it. Not too worried about the cuts that I made in these shafts here, because once again, it's not like a precision component. The main thing doing most of the work is the cross bolt here, so should be fine. All right, well, here it is, finished product here. Unfortunately, weld is leaking there, grease. It's not a super fast leak, so I'm sure majority of the grease still goes to where it's supposed to, but oh well, I am not gonna re-weld that. So that works. Ended up cutting some coils off of that spring so it works better. A lot of opportunities for grease now. The sides all freed up. Can fully pull it out now and lock it out like that. Obviously I have this down. As far as having these like synced up so that they raise and lower the same distance, I think they're about as close as they're gonna get. I had this raised up to where it was tight, and then I pulled, well no, I should start over here. So I did do that, then I actually lowered it down, put a temporary pin in this one, and then raise this one all the way up so it was tight, and then pulled that temporary pin out, left it so it's all the way up, and then raised that one back all the way up again, and then lined up the holes for the real pin for these, and then, you know, so it was probably within, they're probably within 180 degrees of each other, so it's, I think it's about as close as it's going to get. Maybe it might be less than that too, I don't know, but it's pretty close, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so just tightened up those set bolts. Had a hard time getting them back in, even though the holes were in theory a little bit looser. It was still definitely a tight fit. I ended up adding a grease Zerk there as well. definitely raises and lowers a lot smoother than before, so that's pretty sweet. Obviously, as you can see, that one's working good again. It's definitely a lot of grease in there, almost might be too much. And maybe that's going to come back to bite us, who knows, because maybe a bunch of road crap's going to get in there and clog it up with all the grease in there. I suppose that could happen, but we'll just have to find out now. But yeah, this can go and lock out, and that's back to working normally. So yeah, I guess don't got too much else. Just an interesting upgrade here with all these extra grease zerks. I did test the ones in the back here. They are pretty much pressed against this tube that slides up and down, but they both took grease, so should be good. So yeah, I don't really got too much else.